Welcome back to my Zwift racing series documentation. And today is a two for one. I'm going to show two different races in the same NV series, it's stage three and then stage four. Going to talk a little bit about, maybe where racing and high effort things like VO2 maxes and just like high anaerobic style workouts fit in with whatever your fitness plan is. And also just talk about strategy because those two things are really important as I'm learning, and as anyone watching this either has already figured out or maybe wants to know more about. So that's what we're here for, right? So let's talk a little bit about this first race. So the first one here is stage three of the Envy series, and I was able to keep pace with, for the most part, the front group all the way up until the first large-ish and only large climb. And strategy wise, it was not good that I did not put enough power down and keep up with the front group. Because as you'll see, I eventually just fall off and can't keep back up to the last wheel on the downhill and get in that draft of the front group. And so then I drop off and can never catch back up again. So it's a mixture of strategy there and also where you are placing your races in your workout regimen, right? Like how you're placing these. Now, this specific race ended up being the sixth and last day of a block of training for me, which mostly includes usually 2 to 3 days of zone two, and then I'll have a race or a VO2 max style day, and then a wild card, which might be another high anaerobic output or something like a mountain bike ride or e-mountain bike ride. So, I'm riding usually at least 5 days a week, sometimes six. And yeah, and so this one ended up being on the very last day. So my legs weren't feeling like the best, but it wasn't too bad. But I will say that having fried chicken and ice cream for dinner the night before wasn't also the best choice. I swear, kids and their selective hearing, you promise them one thing, a couple weeks before, and then they'll remind you. They won't tell you or remember anything about, what they did in school that day, but they'll remember that you said fried chicken and ice cream for dinner, however long ago. So, anyways, needless to say, I ended up in La La Land after dropping out of the front group for the draft on that first and only large downhill. But it was kind of fun to play kind of back and forth with the second group. And so, I'm still using this as a workout, right? Like this is still, sure, maybe I'm not in the competing for a top 10 spot anymore or podium, but it's fun to just get some practice in with the second group. Some folks ended up, kind of dropping back as well. And I think, being able to trade polls with the second group and get a little strategy in, and then end up essentially, as we'll see, kind of leading the second group. So all is not lost. It was still fun to give it a shot and put all the effort in at the end and see the result of kind of beating the second group there, which was pretty fun. So that is the summary of race one, which will, it's the end of my training block, which is maybe not the best place to put a race. Also, my dietary choices the night before weren't the best. So, overall, with that said, still a learning experience, and strategy wise, really should have burned more candles on that climb to get to the top so that I could get in the draft of the front group and have a chance of hanging on. So, unfortunately, this race, the result is not really where I wanted to be, but as mentioned, this is all for fun. We're riding our bikes, we're getting a workout, we're improving. So let's go on to the next race.
Okay, firstly, let me apologize for my AirPods mic going in to record the last one. Yeah, not sure what happened there, but I hit it in one shot, so I don't want to go back and redo it. Don't mess with perfection. So now you're going to hear me more clearly, and we're going to talk a little bit about the next race. So this is a different course. This is the fourth of the five NV series races. So this is a different course of, and obviously there's going to be a completely different, strategy around this. This one is more of an undulating kind of up and down, roly poly of a course. And so with that said, what's going to happen here is, honestly, I'm trying to ride smarter, not harder here. I think there's just going to be a lot of opportunity to get in drafts on the downs and just like kind of, save myself as best I can on the ups and hope for those featherweights. But overall, my goal of this is really just to lurk in the in the draft. I think with this one, this we talked earlier about the place of a race in your training, and this one was on the start of the next block after the previous one, and I had just done a couple of like hour and a half to 2 hour zone 2 rides the previous 2 days, and so my legs are feeling good. Cardio feeling dialed, and so definitely didn't eat fried chicken and ice cream the night before, so I was feeling ready. Looking at the course, obviously, again, ups and downs, wanted to utilize the draft as much as I could, and I think that overall I knew right off the bat I was going to stick with the front group, and I really stuck to that. So let's go ahead and skip ahead here to the next portion where I'm remaining in the front group. Cool. So I really wanted to show, like, if you look right here at my heart rate and my wattage, like heart rate recovering down into the low 150s, power like chilling. Like there was a portion of like, averaging below 150 watts for a little bit. And those are the opportunities on those brief little downs that give you that rest. And I'm just like thinking of all the kind of candles I'm keeping for the last little baby climb at the end. And also, looking at these climbs, like I think for me on a personal level, just keeping my heart rate in, like, for me personally, at the, young age of 39, I think my heart rate, below 170 and pushing enough power up these hills to keep up is right where I want to be. Like sometimes I hop out of the saddle, push it up a little bit like that. But otherwise, like I'm feeling pretty good about where, keeping up with like in around this Cat C, kind of group. So what's kind of cool about this as well is, again, I'm eyeing the very end, seeing it's another climb. I'm really hoping that last power up is a featherweight for me. And again, just looking at these sections where I can get my heart rate down to like 160 or below on those little downs and stay in the draft was exactly what I was trying to do. So let's skip ahead to the final power up and see what happens and get in that final sprint. All right, so we got the feather, which is awesome. And I'm at the final climb here. We got less than half a mile. I'm in the front group here. There's no catching the very front. And here I am just making my effort and kind of pulling away from the previous folks. There's one kind of directly in front of me, putting down some good power. The first place already finished a good bit ago. So it's really me pulling for third here. Unfortunately, looking at the watts per kilo that CS is putting out, I don't think there's any way to catch. But at this point, I'm just putting down what I can. My heart rate's, nearing my max, but I'm really just trying to hold it down for this last 0.2 miles here and see what I can get. But looking behind me, there's, at least a second to kind of stay ahead. So let's see how it all goes. Well, there it is, third place. And, you get a good spot in your training block for a race. You use good strategy. You ride smarter, not harder. I mean, look here, my watts per kilo and average watts. The average watts per kilo is pretty low. I mean, I'm 78 kilos, about 170, 172 pounds. But, I tried to play it smart. I made a couple little pulls throughout the race, but mostly stayed in the draft and, wasn't feeling fatigue too bad. Got good rest in on those undulating hills and didn't eat fried chicken the night before. So all these things said, I'm really happy with my result here. Getting a third place feels really good. And it was fun, right? Like, learning so much about each race and course and stuff has been one of the funner things of getting into Zwift racing. So thanks for joining in for the duality of these two races, seeing, kind of how bad things can go and then maybe how good things can go. So overall, super happy. I got to start getting my FTP tests locked in and testing those consistently. I've kind of been relying on what races tell me lately, so I need to actually do an FTP ramp and keep that going, maybe monthly, to see where I'm at. My feeling is I've kind of increased more. I should be, again, 78 kilos, 170-ish pounds. I might be approaching the 270, 280 watts for FTP. We'll see what happens. So anyways, tune into the next one, like, subscribe, and see you in Watopia.